In this video I'm going to show you all you need to know about the Fender Performer Jazz Bass. Hey guys, I'm Tyler, thank you for tuning back into the channel if you're new around here. Don't forget to hit that like button and consider hitting subscribe if you like this video and want to see more content exactly like this. As I said in the introduction, this video is going to be focused on this bass right here, which is the Fender Performer Jazz Bass made in the USA. First things first, I should say that this video is in collaboration with Guitar Centre Langley here in the UK, hence the t-shirt. Links to their website will be in the description, and if you want to buy this very bass from their stock, you can do. I'll leave a link to that in the description as well, so head over there and purchase this bass if you like what you see in this video. So in this video what I'm going to do is run you through the specs of this bass, then we're going to hear the bass just plugged in on its own solo, and then I'm going to put the bass head to head with some drums and play back to back different sounds, combinations of the pickups and tone controls, so you can get a sense of the different tones you can get from the bass along with some drums, so you get an idea of how it might sound in a mix. So as I said in the introduction, this is a made in USA bass, so it's right at the top of Fender's range, up there with the original series and the professional, and this bass is made in California. Taking a look at the specs, it's pretty much what you'd expect for a jazz bass. So we have an alder body, we have a maple neck, and then a rosewood fingerboard. We have two single coil Yosemite pickups, which are voiced specifically for the Performer range by Fender. You have a volume tone combination, and we'll talk more about the tone a little bit later, because it's a little bit different to other Fenders that you may have played. We've got the standard Fender bent metal bridge and saddles, which are a little bit better than the usual saddles you find on a bent metal bridge. A little bit nicer, a little bit more of a modern twist, I think. You've got a synthetic bone nut up here at the top end of the neck. Fender fluted tuners, quite significantly fluted, so that's going to help with your string wraps and really making sure that the strings wrap on top of each other and get a nice break angle over the nut. You have the string tree, the 70s Fender Jazz logo, and then Fender authentic tuners on the rear of the headstock. It's a 4-bolt net joint, which is what you'd expect on most Fenders. The other feature of this bass are the jumbo frets, so they're medium jumbo frets. I didn't have any problem playing these straight off the bat, so I think for most players they'll be absolutely fine, but I know some people are quite funny about what type of frets and what size of frets they are. So these are pretty large frets compared to something like a vintage fret, but I know a lot of people are not fans of those. Vintage tall frets definitely divide opinions, and you're not going to find those here. Medium jumbo frets that are plenty wide and plenty there, so you can really feel and dig into the neck. So the Performer series from Fender includes quite a few modern twists, as well as being the classic jazz bass formula like I suggested. The tone control is slightly different in that it has what's called the grease bucket circuit. This means that when you roll off the tone, it just takes off the treble and doesn't boost the bass like it does on most Fenders. Now for me, and I'll get into this a little bit later, I think that's a little bit of a negative on this bass and takes away from the versatility for me. But if you stick around till the conclusion, I'll explain a bit more as to why I think that is. It's also got the fluted tuners, like I said. That's another modern twist, a modern feature. And you have things like the truss rod accessibility just here at the bottom of the neck. And the saddles on the bridge are not just the typical vintage saddles. They've got a few more grooves, which helps you really lock the string in and get a good setup. One of the things I love about this bass is the finish on the neck. It's got a satin urethane finish, and it's really smooth, doesn't grab your finger or anything. A lot of the gloss finishes on Fenders when I first play them are always a bit sticky, and if your hands are cold or sweaty or basically any condition, your fingers have the potential to get a little bit more stuck on the neck than you'd like to, until you start to wear it down through continued play, and over the years it'll start to wear down. But at first it's always a little bit uncomfortable for me. But the satin finish on this neck is a lovely feel. Straight away I picked it up and felt comfortable, and it makes it easier to maintain your technique really. I think that my thumb will travel behind my fingers more accurately when I've got a satin finish. I can smoothly glide up and down. I find sometimes with gloss necks my technique goes a little bit because I'll have my thumb, it'll get a little bit stuck here, and I won't I'll be a bit lazy with it and just kind of move the fingers around. Whereas with this, it's so easy to slide up and down that that's not really a problem. I always like to talk about neck profile, and the profile on this jazz bass neck is a typical jazz bass profile. It's called a modern C shape by Fender, and it's very, very playable. I think you could probably give this bass to anyone and they'd be pretty comfortable with the neck profile. Whether they have a preference for larger necks or not, I really enjoy this neck. It's pretty slim down at the bottom with enough depth to be comfortable, and then it pretty much stays the same and then flattens out as you come up here towards the 12th fret, with again that satin finish making it feel pretty luxurious. I think the way that the end of the neck tapers as it comes towards the 12th fret also makes accessibility to the very top frets pretty easy as well. So whilst you do have to leave your thumb behind a little bit, the way it tapers as it comes up to the neck join is really comfortable, and more so than I remember on quite a lot of the Fender basses that I've played. I don't think this is the slimmest Fender jazz neck that I've ever played, but I do think that it's a very comfortable profile that's going to meet the criteria of quite a large number of players. In terms of the build quality of this bass, I think it's great. The one thing I would maybe mention is just a little bit inside the truss rod cavity. Looks a little bit rough underneath there, but this is minutiae. Everything else on the bass is impeccable. The line where the fretboard ends and meets the headstock is perfectly done, dead straight, which is lovely. The fingerboard edges are really nicely rolled, very comfortable to play. The ends of the frets are well done. As I say, this bass is really well built. Other things, I would maybe say that the pickup routings are a little bit large, but not much. We're talking a millimetre or so, and very much within the margin that I kind of had to sit here and debate whether I should mention that or not. But if I want to be honest, I would maybe like it to be a little bit tighter, but I'm not really too fussed by that. So those are the specs and the build quality of the bass. Now I'm just going to plug the bass in and show you a few of the solo tones and give you the tones that I prefer playing this bass. This is the bass with the volume, both pickup volumes on full and the tone all the way up. This is the bridge pickup with the tone on full. And this is the front pickup with the tone on full. With a jazz bass, I feel like you can really choose whether you want to choose which pickup is the leading pickup, or you can dictate that by where your hand sits. So if you're playing right over one pickup or the other, you're going to get primarily that characteristic from that pickup, and then a little bit of the characteristic of the other. One of my preferred ways of running a jazz bass is to have one pickup slightly leading or the other slightly leading. So for this example, I'll show you the pickups together, and then I'll turn the front pickup just off a little bit, so it's 100% bridge and 90% front pickup, and then I'll turn it the other way so that it's 90% bridge pickup and 100% front, just to give you an idea of kind of my favourite tones which bring out the best characteristic of the bass for me. So hopefully you could hear there how when I turned one pickup down slightly, the mid-range sound changes a little bit and you get a little bit more of the character of one or the other. So when I backed off the front pickup, you got a bit more of that high mid sound from the rear pickup being full on and the front being down slightly. And then when I turned the bridge pickup off slightly and the front's on full, you get more of that warmer P-bassy type tone, and the high mid-range disappears a little bit. And I think that's the most important thing with a jazz bass, is remembering that not only do both pickups work together, but you have another whole range of sounds by how much you have of each pickup. I'm also going to quickly show you the tone control and how that's working. So I'm just going to play an open E and just roll the tone up and down and show you how this tone control works. It's a little bit different. You shouldn't hear any of the low end roll off, you should just hear the top end and attack of the tone control change. So that's tone roll all the way off, and this is tone all the way up. I think it's a lot more subtle than most of the other Fender tone controls that we come across. So now you've heard the bass solo, next I'm going to put the bass with some drums and show you the different tonal combinations back to back. And I want you to let me know what your favourite combination is in the comments below. So now you've heard the bass alongside those drums, and you've heard all the tones you can get from this bass back to back, or at least some of them. I can't go through every single tone ever because I'd be here forever, but I hope that gives you an idea of what you can get from this bass. Let me know what your favourite of those tones was in the comments below, and I'm just going to give you my conclusions and let you know who I think this bass is really well suited to and who it maybe isn't the best bass for. I've been really impressed with this bass. It's a really solid option to add to your collection if you're looking to add a bass that can just do a lot of work and cover a lot of ground. This probably is going to be a good choice. The one thing I'm not so happy about on this bass is the tone control. I do think that the versatility of this bass is limited slightly by that. With most Fender Jazzes you can get an old school P-bass type tone from the front pickup if you want it, and you can also get a dark burpy sound from the bridge pickup. I think the choice to use a grease bucket tone control does limit that slightly, and for me it really sounds a bit more like a string deadener or a string brightener. So the character pretty much remains the same no matter what you're doing, because you don't get that bass boost and the slight change in the mids from the tone control rolling things off and how a passive tone control typically works. In this instance you're just losing that treble, and that keeps the mid-range the same, it keeps the bass the same. So for me it doesn't really change the sound significantly enough. If I had my choice I would probably change that tone control out. However, if you're someone who often plays with a pick and wants to retain that definition, or you're a fingerstyle player that doesn't really want super vintage sounds, you just want to have a decent amount of clarity but maybe don't want some string noise or something like that, I can see how this tone control would work. So that's really a personal preference thing. For me, I love a vintage tone from a Fender. I like my old school sounds and the option of having those. So for me, the tone bucket control, the grease bucket tone control, sorry, doesn't really work. But as I say, if you are playing with pick style, want a lot of definition from your fingerstyle and just want to take a little bit of top off but not really affect the rest of the tone, it's a good choice. Another thing to say is that this bass has a real good mid-range punch from the pickups. I think there's plenty of growl there and quite a bit more low mid than you'd expect for a jazz bass, and that's something that I appreciate a lot in this bass. Overall, I suggest if you are after a jazz bass that has some vintage dark tones, this probably isn't the bass for you. But if you're looking for a jazz bass for the modern era and want a lot of defined mid-range in your jazz bass sound, this is a great choice and a really solidly well-built Fender that is going to last you many, many years. Hopefully that's all you need to know about the Fender USA Performer Jazz Bass. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to head over to my Instagram page and check that out. I'll leave a link to that below me right now. This video was in collaboration with Guitar Centre Langley here in the UK, so don't forget to head over to their website, and if you want to buy this very bass you can do so. I will leave a link to it in the description below. Don't forget, if you like this video and my content, to hit the subscribe button and hit like on this video if it helped you out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you around soon.